to play big in a game that means everything. Is there more pressure tonight on Jason Tatum or on Jimmy Butler?
Easily Jimmy Butler. He's older, not younger. He averaged 35 points in the first 2 games. He's averaging 7 in the last 2 games. I mean, are you kidding me? The last game, he was a minus 30 in the plus-minus category. These are simply unacceptable numbers for a franchise-caliber player, a superstar for the team, which we all believe him to be. He's a big-time baller. We know what he can bring to the table, but that hasn't happened, especially the last game, and he's got to do something about it. Got injured in Game 3. Obviously, didn't play the second half, but Game 4, he was a no-show. He's got to pick it up to save Miami's season, because they lose this game, it's over. They're not winning Game 6 in Boston.
I agree with the conclusion, but getting there is a little tougher than Stephen A. is letting on. If Jimmy Butler is not healthy enough to be Jimmy Butler, then we're going to see more of what we saw at the second half of Game 3 when he wasn't on the floor. In the last game when he had, 6 points. So the question is not whether Jimmy Butler is willing. The question is he able? And that's the question about this whole series now. Look at the list. It looks like a football game. It looks like when we're in the press box before a football game, checking who's going to be eligible or not on the 53-man roster when they come out for kickoff.
Right.
And we just don't know. So I know Jimmy Butler has said, it's not the knee, it's me. I got to be better. I love all that. That's why we love Jimmy Butler. Yeah. Doesn't mean he's going to be able.
The Miami Heat won't have the health or endurance to win this series. I feel like they may be able to win tonight's game. Based on what you just said, Kyle Lowry has missed a game. Jimmy Butler has missed the second half. Tyler Hero has missed a game. And we see P.J. Tucker playing through injury. I think the coaching job of Eric Spoelstra has them tied in the series. They're overmatched, in my opinion, talent-wise and depth-wise by the Boston Celtics.
Look, I don't disagree with the word any of you said, but I would throw the name Bam Adebayo into this conversation. Jimmy Butler's not going to be able to do this himself, whether his knee is healthy or not. He needs some help, and the big fella, Stephen A., has not given it to him in this series consistently.
All you need to know is this. In the one game Robert Williams played, I'm sorry, 3 games, Bam Adebayo has got 25 points against him. In the one game he didn't play, he scored 31. What the hell is Robert Williams, Freddy Krueger? I mean, are we scared to death of him? You got to handle your business in that matchup.
We will talk much more about that in Countdown. It's coming your way, a full 60-minute edition before we turn it over to Game 5 tonight.
The only other players with 3 20-point first halves in a single conference finals, James Harden, LeBron James. On the other side, Jimmy Butler, he averaged 35 points a game on 62% shooting in the first 2 games of the series, but he struggled in Boston. 6-22, 14 total points, also, of course, dealing with a knee injury. The winner, by the way, of this game, primed to go on to the finals. Teams to win Game 5 of a series that's tied 2-2 in a best-of-7 go on to win that series nearly 82% of the time. Both teams, however, and this is why this has been such a difficult series to understand, dealing with injury issues ahead of that pivotal matchup tonight in Miami. Celtics guard Marcus Smart missing Game 4. He remains questionable with an ankle. Heat guard Tyler Hero still dealing with his groin injury that kept him out of Game 4. More in tonight's game. Tim Bontemps, Nick Friedel are both with us in Miami for Game 5, and they join us now. And I mentioned, I'll start there with you, Tim, the blowouts. Guys, one reason this series hasn't had any consistency is because of the injuries. So, Tim, I'm going to start with you. What is the latest that you're hearing about Marcus Smart and Robert Williams?
So let's start with Marcus Smart, Al, who's got a sprained right ankle. The injury he suffered in the second half of Game 3, came back to play in that game and then sat out of Game 4. Now, Ime Udoka said this morning Marcus Smart has the trifecta: pain, swelling, and soreness in that ankle. Obviously doesn't sound fun. The plan was to get him treatment all day today with the hopes of getting him back out on the court here in Miami for Game 5. Remember, in Game 2, he had 24 points and 12 assists. Celtics would love to get that production in tonight's Game 5. As for Robert Williams, he has been dealing with soreness in his left knee, really going back 2 months, Al, since he had surgery on his meniscus in late March. Missed the beginning of the playoffs against the Nets. Then he missed the final 3 games of the Bucks series with soreness in that knee, stemming from a bone bruise. That injury caused him to miss Game 3. The Celtics would love have him back out there against Bam Adebayo. And then there's Jason Tatum, who is dealing with soreness in his shoulder going back to the stinger he suffered in Game 3. You saw in Game 4, L, he went to the line 16 times. He went there time and time again. He was incredibly aggressive. He had one air ball also in that game. He said today he's working through that injury. Obviously might affect his shot a little bit, but he is good to go, is going to be in the lineup, and is going to try to lead the Celtics to a 3-2 lead in this series.
Yeah, huge bounce-back performance for Tatum, 31 points in that Game 4. Meanwhile, Miami's starting lineup certainly struggled. Let's bring in Nick Friedel now. I think a 3 for 14 night from Jimmy Butler. I know he's been dealing with that knee soreness, but what are Miami's expectations for him in Game 5?
Historically, having covered Jimmy since he came into the league, when he says, I'm not worried about that knee, that means he is indeed worried about that knee. So they are really hoping that the rest and recovery he got in the last day and a half can help him. And I can tell you this, having been around Jimmy a lot of years, he is one of the most mentally tough players I've ever covered. He always believes he can will his team to a win, even when he's dealing with a lot of different injury problems. So while the knee is an issue for this team, he's confident he can push through. The big question besides Jimmy is, what happens with Tyler Hero? We just saw him walk on the floor right before the Heat's closed workout started. He looks like a guy who's going to try to play through that groin injury, but we're going to find out here very soon if he's on the floor as well. The Heat are dealing with a lot of different flaws on their roster, but they feel like the culture they've developed is built for this moment. No matter who is out there, they have the confidence that they can get Game 5 and go back to Boston and try and close out this series.
Yeah, Tyler Hero, you mentioned him averaging over 13 points this postseason. That's third most for Miami. And
so far in this series, stepping up. They don't want to go home yet. Doncic drains another triple. Dallas Mavericks season not done yet. There will be a Game 5 in San Francisco.
there certainly will be tonight. Game 5. Bam Adebayo looks like a totally different player in this series when he's being opposed by Robert Williams III on the bench. When Robert Williams III is on the bench, we take a look right now, though, at the actual percentages. I'm jumping ahead. I want to talk about Bam. The Mavs avoided the sweep last night. They look to become the first team in NBA history to overcome an 0-3 series deficit. And now you give me Bam. Bam. I say Bam, and Bam. There he is. 9 for 6 in the best-of-7 series. The numbers will tell you he's done relatively well being defended against the Celtics in this series. A lot of that comes down to just Game 3. But when you look specifically at what Adebayo's been able to do when he's being guarded by Robert Williams III, it's very different. That's what I was getting at. I was itching. Williams off the court, Adebayo's averaged over 10 shot attempts more per 100 possessions while also scoring more. But when he's on the court, Miami's minus 27 as a team, and Adebayo is scoring a lot less. It's why, coincidentally, Robert Williams can play Game 3. We saw Bam have arguably his best playoff game of his career. 6-time All-Star Amari Stoudemire is joining us now. And Amari, we showed the numbers. Bam struggling in this series when Robert Williams is his primary defender. What does he have to do differently tonight to be a contributing factor offensively?
He has to be more assertive offensively, right? I mean, it's not an easy deal to be assertive offensively when you have Al Horford and Robert Williams guarding you. The ideal for him is if he's able to somewhat, understand how to beat his first defender and then be able to score over the second, rotating guy, which would be Robert Williams. If he's able to do that, then he'll have a very good game. But he has to be more aggressive. He has to try to dominate this game to give his team the best chance to win.
Also difficult navigating IFBs, by the way. I hate them. Mine pops out all the time. Amari just sneaks out of my ear. I think my ears are shaped weird. This has been such an unpredictable series this far. I don't know how the odds makers are doing it. What are your expectations for how Game 5 is going to play out tonight?
I got Boston in this game. I just think they're too skilled. They're too, organized offensively. Defensively, they're one of the top teams that I've seen, in a long time defensively on the perimeter and also on the inside. Miami's banged up. A lot of guys are injured. So it's going to be very tough for them to get this win today. But I do think the Boston Celtics are going to be able to overpower the Miami Heat tonight for a Game 5 victory.
Any of this change at all if there's no Marcus Smart tonight?
What's that?
Any of this change for you? Who you think is going to win? Will that be impacted if there's no Marcus Smart tonight, you think, for Boston?
No, I don't think so. It doesn't change my opinion on that. I think Marcus Smart is a very important piece to this. But I do think the Boston Celtics are strong enough, even without Marcus Smart, to win tonight.